morning and welcome to Retirement Tax Matters. I'm Adam Reed. This is Garrett Crawford, our resident CFP. How are we doing this morning, Garrett?
Doing pretty good. Excited to talk about DAFs. You know, everybody out there probably loves talking about DAFs too, right?
Oh yeah, the old donor advised fund.
Yeah.
How can I give all this money away? You know, a lot of the people listening to our podcast have done a good job saving it. Now they're all thinking, how do I get rid of all this?
Yeah.
No, that's probably not what they're thinking. But I think if we do have charitably inclined people listening and a lot of our clients, there's some really cool tactical maneuvers you can use with the donor advised fund. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people listening really get a kick out of this, even if it's not something they use, because it is such a unique way that you can take care of a problem that a lot of people in this higher net worth space have. And you can use it in really cool ways. So I think I'm excited to kind of just jump into donor advised funds today.
Yeah, and so I came up with the headline today, I think for the video, and I thought, man, we work in such a great industry using jargon and three-letter words, but we're talking about DAFs and NIIT and long-term cap gains. I mean, for some people out there, they're like, yeah, you guys are speaking my language. If you were like me showing up to my engineering internship, what's a VAR? All kinds of language. And so the headline was kind of a spoof, all these abbreviations. But we're going to break it down for you like nobody else can today, right, Adam?
Some alphabet soup. Hey, and this is probably a good time, too, just to remind people, our year-end tax planning checklist, donor advised funds would be a great thing to be thinking of as you're going through that.
Yep,
so
sure.
Go down in the description below. It's in there. It takes you a link to our website, and we'll send that to you. And I think it'd be a huge asset for you as you're thinking through, how do I give? How do I save on taxes? How do I do this whole thing efficiently? That thing's going to be kind of the gold standard for what you should be thinking through each year as you do it. So
Amen.
Definitely point people in that direction as we jump into the deep end, the deep waters of DAF, the donor advised funds. So, Garrett, I think a good place to start, and I think kind of our goal today is, what is a donor advised fund? Who does it make sense for? And then how do you do it? If you watch this video, you're like, this is a great fit for me. Or if you come and meet with us and we kind of advise or recommend it, how would you actually do it? So why don't you kick us off there of what is a donor advised fund?
Yeah, and so we have done a previous episode where we just kind of generally talk about charitable giving, and we have a section in there about donor advised funds, but our goal today was to try to tighten this up into one quick episode, like a phone call with a client. And I would just say that probably a lot of retirees out there are pretty familiar with this idea of a qualified charitable distribution, and it's actually really cool. It should be part of your consideration, but we're not going to talk about the QCD today. We're talking about the DAF, the donor advised fund. And I guess I would start with the financial industry has a lot going on when it comes to charitable giving. You know, I remember in my CFP study days, and you know, Adam, it'll be in your estate planning section, I think, when you get there. But you get into all these, you know, kind of complicated strategies. There's a charitable remainder unit trust, a charitable remainder annuity trust. You can donate highly appreciated securities, and but this other one, I feel like, is an account that has become popularized in the past probably 7 or 8 years, that when I started, I didn't hear about it a lot. But over the recent years, if I have a client that's charitably inclined and has a large brokerage account, I'm bringing up this idea of, have you ever considered a donor advised fund? And I would think more so than a CRUT, donating individual securities. This one is pretty... You know, there's a little learning curve on the front end, but if I tell my clients a lot, if you can just hang in there for a year, and if you just kind of trust me and open up this account, I think you'll like it. And a few of our bigger clients, I've kind of convinced to go and to open up a DAF and fund it. And I have one. He says, Garrett, I love the donor advised fund. I'm so glad you recommended it to me. It's so easy, and it's, you know, I wish I would have done that before. So again, I'm getting long-winded here. What is a donor advised fund? It's actually just like an account, like we custody at Schwab. You can go to schwab.com and you can open up a donor advised fund, just like you can open up an IRA account, a Roth account, a brokerage account. You can open up a donor advised fund, and Schwab uses a group called they just changed the name. I think it's called DAF Giving 360. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. It used to be called Schwab Charitable. I like that name better. But if you go to DAF Giving 360, you can open up an account. It can be actually on the same Schwab online account login, and it has an account number. You get to name what you want your donor advised fund to be, and then you can fund it. But it's basically an account that you open and that you can transfer highly appreciated securities. Actually, you could transfer any security, but for the people listening, it's going to be that high net worth retiree between 2 and 8 million that we're talking to, where there's a high correlation where they've invested in stocks that have grown tremendously, and they're looking at that and they're saying, hey, I don't want to have to, I don't want to liquidate anything, and I don't want to pay that 15 to 23.8% long-term capital gain, but I am charitably inclined, so maybe I've heard about just donating that stock directly. And I think the cool part about a donor advised fund is that you can transfer those highly appreciated securities into the account. You get credit for the full market value of that stock that you transition over. You get to avoid the appreciated long-term capital gain. And what sets the donor advised fund apart is that you get to control when you actually give it. So I think a lot of our retirees out there that are listening, they might have had one really big year. Maybe their income was in the 24%. They get a big severance payout, or maybe they sell a business. Something big happens and their income spikes tremendously. It's a wonderful year to use a donor advised fund because you could fund what I'm going to call a giving account. You've got a brokerage account at Schwab. You move highly appreciated securities over to the donor advised fund. You get a deduction, but all that money doesn't have to go out to the charity or to the church in the very first year. You can dole it out over time. So I'm sure there's more specifics, but this idea of control, not being forced to give it all out in 1 year, but you get the tax deduction in 1 year. And that big client that I think really, really likes it, he says it's so easy. They've already got all the charities built into the Schwab website. So if you've got a 501c3, you type in the name, they've already got the address stored, and you can actually do the giving anonymously. So if anybody contributes to political parties, if you contribute one time, you end up getting harassed for the rest of your life. And so you can make contributions anonymously to these groups that are untraceable back to you. So for privacy perspective, I think very simple, great tax-wise, can give anonymously and protect your mailbox. It's a good tool to think about.
It almost reminds me too, maybe if people are struggling to wrap their mind around this tax benefit in 1 year, but then giving afterwards. It's kind of like itemizing if you bunch deductions.
Oh yeah, sure.
Where it's like, hey, I can kind of throw all these in 1 year to benefit my taxes, but then next year maybe I take the standard deduction or I can't do it as much. So you kind of put all of the giving into 1 year, you bunch it into 1 year, and then you can actually give the money, even though you've already gotten the tax benefits of it in that 1 year. So, well, I know you've got some notes here on kind of who is this a good fit for? Because as I was thinking on my way over here this morning, almost every financial tool has an ideal use, right? It's just kind of like a tool in a tool belt. A hammer hits a nail really well. Screwdriver screws a screw really well. So who does this a good fit for? And who might this serve well? And what are some things that, if you see them, if you're going through the year-end tax planning checklist, kind of some red lights should go off in your head or some alarms. Oh, I should be thinking about a donor advised fund.
Yeah, so I think I would, number one, when it comes to like charitable giving, it just doesn't make sense to give money to a 501c3 or a charity if your goal is just to save taxes. Like there has to, and I would champion this. I would want people that are giving to be giving out of an overflowing generosity within them, and the tax benefits are kind of to the side. Like it's not going to make sense to give away $100,000 if you're just trying to save 35% in federal taxes. But when I'm interacting with people, the people that stick out to me are somebody that has a very highly appreciated brokerage account. Let's say they invested $100,000 into something, and over a decade or two, now it's at $1 million. Maybe it's great performance, maybe it's ongoing savings, but there's an appreciation that exists in there where there's some hesitation to want to take money out because they're afraid of the taxes involved. But I guess the other part would be they are and this is it's not a red flag, it's not a bad thing, but just I see it as here's a big financial planning opportunity. If you're just writing a check to the charitable organization that you're a part of out of your checking account, and you've got all these capital gains built up in a brokerage account, call me, email me. We can talk, and I might be able to save you some money. But depending on how high your income is, we can effectively neutralize those long-term capital gains, and that's what this episode is about. So instead of writing a check to your 501c3 qualified charitable organization from that money in your bank account that you've already paid taxes on, instead, what if we took brokerage account, highly appreciated securities, funded a donor advised fund account, got you a charitable deduction, just like if you were writing a check to that charity, and then let's say you end up making this could be later on the podcast, but maybe you want to fund a donor advised fund with $100,000 so that it's not all going to the charity in 1 year. Maybe that's like 3 or 4 years worth of giving. But you do $100,000 into a donor advised fund, and then you take that extra cash that is sitting in your checking account that you would normally write those charitable contribution checks for, and we move it from the checking account back into the brokerage account. So effectively what we're doing is we are eliminating the capital gains on the highly appreciated securities and replacing that with the cash that you would normally write a check to the charitable group for. Mm-hmm. So that's how you neutralize, but there's a couple other things that I think is worth mentioning when we're talking about taxes. And so in the headline of this video, we're talking about long-term capital gains, which is what I just mentioned. But there's also this thing called net investment income tax. So when a lot of our retirees between 2 and 8 million, they're going to have a pretty high income. And one of the penalties that can arise for you is called the net investment income tax. And so if you're a single person, it's when you have adjusted gross income or modified adjusted gross income over $200,000, and if you're married filing jointly, it's $250,000. And I was refreshing this morning. The last time they adjusted those numbers were a long time ago.
Well, let's take just a quick second. We did a singles video a couple weeks ago for all of our single clients. This is one of the few financial numbers that isn't half of the married number.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Good job, single people. This is the one you can hang your hat on. So the NIIT, we actually get some benefit here from being single. Yeah. One of the few places.
And so the 200,000, 250, they haven't been adjusted in a long time. And so that's catching more and more retires. I remember 13 years ago when I was here, it was still 200 and 250,000. So as retirees' accounts are growing, their income is increasing with inflation and great market performance. Not only are their long-term capital gains getting hit with a 15% or a 20%, depending on household income, but they're adding in a 3.8% net investment income tax on that income. So the donor advised fund is effectively helping you eliminate not only a long-term capital gain or a short-term capital gain if you donated less within under 12 months, but also the additional net investment income tax. So this is not chump change, and I think especially for a lot of our listeners, if you're writing a check to your charitable group, there's an opportunity here to save money. And then the last little one that I wanted to mention is this AGI limitation. So you can't just do whatever you want. You can't add, $5 million, $2 million to a donor advised fund and get that much of a charitable deduction. They limit it to 30% of your AGI when you're donating securities or property. And so if your income was $200,000, if I'm doing my math right, you would be limited to a first-year deduction of 30% of your AGI, which would be $60,000. So if you donated $100,000, you could only take a $60,000 charitable deduction in that first year. However, that $40,000 you're disallowed taking is allowed to carry over. I believe it's for 5 years in the future. So you may be eventually able to take advantage of that. But what I see a lot of clients do is, one, a donor advised fund contribution, we would maybe go up to the 30% AGI level, which can lower income, which could cause greater room for a Roth conversion, but we're paying attention to how much their normal itemized deductions or standard deductions are so that we can optimize that. I don't necessarily like to get into that 5-year carryover rule if I can avoid it. And so donor advised funds work really well for avoiding long-term capital gains, net investment income tax, and also the bonus, creating more room for Roth conversions.
So I guess we'll kind of wrap up here with, if somebody's going through, they've downloaded the year-end tax planning checklist, they're going through it, and they say, you know what, I see some capital gains in here, you know, my brokerage account, because a lot of our clients, at least, and probably people listening, maybe we're self-employed, and maybe they just opened a brokerage account and just started throwing money at it as they had good years and bad years, and that was easier for them. And so maybe they've got this big, highly appreciated brokerage account and maybe a smaller IRA. But as they're looking at that and they see some things, how do they actually go about setting up a donor advised fund? How do you implement that into your plan? And then kind of how do you utilize it, I guess?
Yep. So I just know Schwab better. I think Schwab has a great platform for the donor advised fund. I'm sure Fidelity and Vanguard have something similar, but I've been very impressed with Schwab. You'd want to Google DAF Giving 360. You'd want to read about the fees, the process of opening up an account. It's not very hard at all, but one thing we didn't mention is that your donor advised fund can be invested in the market, and I think this is a whole other topic that we do one day. But how do you invest money that you're going to give away? Are we putting it all in NVIDIA stock and hoping that the charitable group just kills it? I would say most of our clients, when you put money into a donor advised fund, your goal is not like growth, it's preservation. And so you may be investing a donor advised fund differently than you would your own personal investments. But you'd want to open up a donor advised fund. And if you already had an account at Schwab, it makes the transfer process super simple, which is another point in the favor of like consolidating, staying on one custodian. It's kind of like having a checking account here, savings account here, and then a brokerage account at a different company. When we can create synergy.
Garrett loves financial or tax return driven financial planning. He loves Holistic Plan, which is the software we use. He also loves his term ROH, return on hassle.
Yeah.
Big. He loves simple, straightforward.
The less we manage, the less we mess up.
Let's not reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah. And so if you can have your Schwab brokerage account and your Schwab donor advised account together, that transfer process is super simple. It happens the same day. It's automatic. You can do it online. And then you're going to pick an investment strategy. There are some fees. I want to say, I'm drawing a blank. It might be like 0.4%. But again, it's like a charitable thing. I think most people are okay with that. So there is a management fee, but once you have that funded, you're going to get a tax form showing that later on in the year, but you're going to be able to just go into your donor advised portal and you're going to be able to find a charity and you're going to be able to send that money out to the organization really with no problem. And so I guess I would counsel people, it's not that hard. But there is friction in this, and that's where, with a lot of our clients, if we just kind of hold their hand through the process. Once they get through year one, it's like eureka light bulb moment. That's how it works, and then they're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's another great, again, tool to have in the tool belt, along with QCDs for trying to do some charitable giving. Those are kind of the two big ways that make a lot of sense. And these especially for, I think, people with a big brokerage account or especially low basis stock. And even people that are still growing some of those things too. I know we talked about they're kind of replacing as you go. You can give off the top and cut down your basis and then kind of refund it with new cash. So some really cool different ways I think you can utilize giving. And like you said, I think the heart behind giving should be, I want to give. I want to help other people. I want to benefit others. For somebody like me, maybe my church, for my brother and his wife, it could be something like the dog shelter. They spend a lot of time over there and love animals. So it doesn't matter where it's going. I think it's the heart behind it. Yeah. And then just the benefit of, man, this is great. I get to feel good, enjoy doing this, and I get some tax benefit.
And I think my client is, Garrett, this is a great experience. This is easy. Sometimes even the part for a lot of you, like I had one yesterday, I had to go to the website, had to look up the address and, fill out the form and sign the form. It's like a few minutes of your day. You just go right in, find the charity, hit send, good to go. So I think I would end this by the donor advised fund is not be-all, end-all solution for everybody, but it is an amazing charitable gifting account tool. Everybody's situation is going to be unique, but a donor advised fund may be something you should consider.
So the thumbnail shouldn't be every single human needs a donor advised fund right now or anything like that. So, but
you can do that just with a little asterisk that says, well, maybe not really.
Or with a double question mark or
Yeah.
something. But anyway, thank you guys for tagging along. Make sure to remember the year-end tax planning checklist. What a great resource, especially here this is crazy. We're almost in the middle of the year. It's a good time to kind of start making some projections and then fine tune towards the end of the year. So great time to check that out. Great time to look into donor advised funds too and start thinking, hey, is this a year? Do we have a big sale? Do we have a home sale? What's going on this year? Could we use something like this? And start planning for the end of the year. Because I think if you wait till October, November, kind of scrambling, summertime's a great time. Sit down at the beach, bring a book, umbrella drink, and start your year-end tax planning now. So we're a bundle of fun over here at Retirement Tax Matters. But anyway, thank you guys for tagging along. Like, subscribe, do all the different things. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and check out our newsletter. It's really, I think, adds a ton of value free of charge. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Adam Reed. This is Garrett Crawford. We're Retirement Tax Matters.
Thanks so much for listening to Retirement Tax Matters. As always, the ideas we share here are for educational purposes, and we do our best to get it right, but this isn't a substitute for specific tax or financial advice, because a truly effective strategy is always built around your personal situation. For more resources and to see our full disclosure, visit us at retirementtaxmatters.com.